was a legendary assassin who must kill the last of their clan. But when he refused his mission, I must go, or you will all be in danger. He became the target. Ninjas. Damn.
Post-Thanksgiving leftovers. Damn. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. And, of course, we are looking at the 3 big new releases of December 3rd, 2010. If you even want to call our first movie the biggest new release, it's really not. But it was the highest grossing of the new releases. And that is, of course, The Warrior's Way. Its plot centers around a 19th century warrior named Yang, who is ordered to kill the last member of an enemy clan, a baby girl. He refuses the mission and flees with the child to a dilapidated town in the American West. So it's not only a movie about ninjas, it's also a Western. I guess they saw Cowboys and Aliens was coming up and said, we got to get this out here before that comes out, because we know that's going to be a hit, even though it really wasn't. But this is an idea that should be fun. Cowboys and ninjas together in one movie. And yet this film can't even do that right. This movie is so stupid. Like, this is one of the dumbest movies I have ever seen in my entire life. And not dumb in a fun way. But no, this is a dumb movie in the sense that it doesn't know whether or not it wants to be play it straight and take it seriously and be funny, or does it want to be a serious movie altogether. And it really tries to get both of them, but it can't work on any way, shape, or form. And it's a movie that is just such an ungodly mess and features way too many talented people in the supporting cast. Like I said, Jeffrey Rush, Kate Bosworth, Danny Houston, Tony Cox. All these people deserve better movies than this, but this is a movie that was clearly riding on the fact that one of the producers was one of the producers of The Lord of the Rings, Barry Osborne. Okay, and what else am I supposed to take away from it? I mean, maybe if I look at the production of this, maybe I can figure out why this movie flopped so badly. Oh, wait. It began on shooting all the way back in 2007 and finished filming in 2008. It's coming out on the 5th to the last weekend of the year of 2010. I think I don't need to say too much more about why this movie failed. This was one of the biggest box office bombs of the year. I mean, this was right up there with MacGruber, Jonah Hex, and another movie we'll get to in a couple weeks' time. But, yeah, it only brought in $11 million off of a $42 million budget. So, that's pretty much all you got to say about The Warrior's Way. So let's go ahead and get to a good movie, a really good movie, and that is Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis in the latest film from Darren Aronofsky, and that is Black Swan.
Stars, an instant classic.
My daughter, the Swan Queen.
Black Swan is outlandishly entertaining.
Just want to be perfect.
I want to see passion. Attack it.
Natalie Portman delivers a dazzling tour de force that makes her an instant leading contender in every Best Actress race.
What happened to my sweet girl? She's gone.
Director Darren Aronofsky soars to new heights with Black Swan. It's a masterpiece. Black Swan, rated R. In select theaters December 10th.
You know, this is one of those movies where I have that thing where if I wish this movie would have come out in 2010, because I probably would have seen this and I really would have had this as my favorite movie of the year, but no. This is one of those movies that opened in limited release in December, and you had to wait until after New Year's for the movie to get to your local theater, which happened to me. And sadly, this did not make my top 10 list for 2010, but I would have put it on there had I seen it that year, because it is that really good of a movie, and maybe Darren Aronofsky's best film overall. Revolves around the production of Swan Lake by a ballet company in New York, and the production requires a ballerina to play both the innocent white swan and the sensual black swan. And one dancer, played by Natalie Portman, is a perfect fit for the white swan, while another, played by Mila Kunis, has a personality that matches the black swan. When the two compete for the parts, Nina finds a dark side to herself, Nina being played by Natalie Portman. And this is an incredible masterpiece of a movie. This is one of those movies that, like I said, should have won Best Picture at the Oscars, but no, we had to give it to the safest, most blandest movie to date. I'm trying to keep my hatred towards the King's Speech out of these other reviews, but I'm sorry, I can't help it when a great movie like this is getting shunned to the side for regurgitated slop. But Natalie Portman does give a great performance that did give her a well-deserved Academy Award. I really thought Mila Kunis probably should have gotten nominated too. I mean, she should have gotten a nomination for Best Supporting Actress, because she was just as good as Natalie Portman was in this movie. I mean, it's easy to just look at Mila Kunis as, oh, that actress from that '70s show and Family Guy. When you look at her movies, it's just like she has shown time and time again how good of an actor she can really be, and this is definitely one of, if not her strongest performance to date. Vincent Cassel, I think, does a very good job as the dance instructor. Barbara Hershey's pretty good playing the mother. Winona Ryder is the only one that kind of felt like she wasn't really used all that well. She's barely in the movie, and the little bit she's in, she really doesn't do anything that impressive overall. I mean, she's kind of upstaged by everybody else in there, but it felt like they threw her in there just because, hey, she's Winona Ryder, she's a recognizable name, and she doesn't feel like she's needed in this movie in particular, but like I said, it doesn't take away from the film in general. Darren Aronofsky, I think, does a great job directing this, giving this film this unique visual style to it. I mean, the last 25 minutes alone, when you have Natalie Portman's character hitting the height of her hallucinations, and while the play is going on, like, it's legitimately terrifying. It turns into somewhat of a horror film, kind of a precursor to what The Substance kind of would be like later on, or like a David Cronenberg movie. I mean, the creepiest parts coming together in this movie are when she turns into a swan while she's doing the performance. Her neck starts to expand, her toes come together, and at the same time, these visuals in this are absolutely incredible to look at. And it's just something that once you see it, it's never leaving the back of your brain, no matter how hard you try. I mean, this movie is an amazing film. Great performances, great visuals, terrifying elements, incredible direction, a great Oscar-winning performance by Portman. Kunis and Cassel were great as well. This is Darren Aronofsky's best movie, in my personal opinion. He's made a lot of great movies, but this is definitely the high mark for him as a director as a whole. This is easily one of the best movies of the year. A great film that should have won another one that should have won Best Picture, but you know that story already, so. With that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, a very bold and daring film for Jim Carrey, especially after the last couple of movies he was in. But this is one that, unlike the number 23, that actually worked. I Love You, Philip Morris.
We'll be together soon, I promise.
How do you keep escaping prison?
I have an early release order for Philip Morris. I'm his lawyer.
We want you to be our chief financial officer.
How big was this Christmas bucket?
Pretty big.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was weird, too.
Of course, a movie where you have The Mask and Obi-Wan Kenobi getting together as a couple is going to lead to a lot of interesting elements to it. And when you add in the people who wrote Bad Santa, who are making their directorial debut, how can you go wrong? I Love You, Philip Morris is a dark comedy where you have it's based on the story of con artist, imposter, and multiple prisoner escapee Stephen J. Russell, who's played by Jim Carrey, and while incarcerated, he falls in love with a fellow inmate, Philip Morris, played by Ewan McGregor. After Morris is released from prison, Russell escapes from prison 4 times to be reunited with Morris. And hijinks and hilarity ensues, and this is definitely one of Jim Carrey's best performances overall, especially a great performance where he really is he's really taken it to a level where it doesn't feel like a movie where he's trying way too hard, like the number 23, where he was trying incredibly hard to do something different. This does not feel that way. This feels like a performance where he's really given it his all, and you do buy the chemistry between him and Ewan McGregor. And, you know, these two directors, John Requa and Glenn Ficarra, like I said, they wrote movies like Bad Santa, they wrote the Bad News Bears remake, they wrote Cats and Dogs, Looney Tunes Back in Action. You forget that these two actually wrote for Nickelodeon back in the heyday. They wrote for the Wild Thornberrys, they wrote several episodes of The Angry Beavers. I mean, these guys are very good writers, and they've turned out to be pretty good directors. I'm looking at the movies they've made. They've not made one bad movie. A Crazy Stupid Love was great. Focus was a really good movie. And even Whiskey Tango Foxtrot may have not been their best film overall, but it's probably their worst. But it's not a bad movie at all. It's a really good film. I mean, these guys have a really good future ahead of them as directors, and this is probably a great way to. This is really a great way to start off their directorial careers. They really do have a great element to it with these two solid performances by Carrey and McGregor, and it really is very funny, very clever stuff, very silly stuff, and it works because it feels like a film written by the guys who made Bad Santa and the Bad News Bears remake. It feels like a film that will be set up in the same circumstances as this particular film is. It's a terrific film, man. It's one that I don't think gets as much attention as it should, but it's definitely one that should get more respect. It's a movie that I think is very much a film that definitely needs to be seen, especially if you want to see some great underrated Jim Carrey work. I Love You, Philip Morris definitely is the film for that. Definitely one of the more underrated films of the year. One I highly recommend checking out. I Love You, Philip Morris. Call for Philip Morris. I mean, we gotta throw that in there because the title of the movie literally is I Love You, Philip Morris. But with that said, I apologize for that.
It's perfect. We got an apartment in Manhattan. We got a house in the country.
Gosling, Kirsten Dunst, Frank Langella.
These people play hardball.
All Good Things, inspired by true events, rated R, in theaters this December. Or see.
I was literally about to end the show, and then I completely realized I forgot our last movie, All Good Things. So scratch the end of that. Scratch the end of that show. The end of the show for right now. But All Good Things, a movie I should have. I mentioned on the last episode I was going to do, and then I completely forgot about it. But this is based on the life of Robert Durst, and that's going to play into something a little bit later on I'll talk about. It stars Ryan Gosling, Kirsten Dunst, and Frank Langella, and Gosling plays the wealthy son of a New York real estate tycoon, played by Langella, who develops a disturbing relationship with his wife, Kirsten Dunst, and becomes suspected of a series of murders, all as well as his wife's unsolved disappearance. And sure enough, 5 years after this movie came out, HBO did the documentary The Jinx, which basically Robert Durst professed admiration for the film, and basically said that, you know, in these 20 hours worth of footage over a multi-year period, he basically confessed to the murder to everything happening. And yeah, so this movie has become part of history as time has gone on, and nobody really was talking about it at the time. In fact, it actually got pretty bad reviews when it came out, and I got a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes, 57 out of 100, which basically meant that this thing was going to crash and burn before anybody really knew about it. And sure enough, but then this film but then The Jinx came along, and then all of a sudden people started to realize, we didn't know that there was a movie that was inspired by this story in particular, so let's go watch this. And honestly, that's how I came around to it. And now that I've seen that after watching The Jinx, the movie isn't that bad in particular. It's actually a pretty decent film overall. There's a lot of stuff in there that does work. I mean, mostly the performances. I mean, you got Frank Langella, he can do no wrong, but Ryan Gosling, a great performance. This was before his big breakout year in 2011, when everyone finally realized how great of an actor this guy really was. And Kirsten Dunst, this is actually one of her main big, first major non-Spider-Man roles, where people realize that she's not just somebody who's just going to be in the Spider-Man movies for the rest of her career. I mean, yeah, she's been in other stuff beforehand, but this is one of those ones where it's coming out around Oscar season. It's a movie that's trying to get some Academy Award consideration, and while it didn't get it, I felt like that people really looked at this and said, okay, this isn't just a Mary Jane anymore. This is actually Kirsten Dunst really showing what she can do as an actress, and I think it works very well to the film's advantages. I mean, it's not one of the best movies of the year, but it's definitely a film that is well worth checking out. It's a film that is very well done, a film that's very well put together, mostly because of the performances, and especially if you've watched The Jinx and know the story of Robert Durst as a whole. The film does a very good job of handling that, and I think it's very well presented. It's a very underrated film, and it's one I do recommend checking out. All Good Things.
Are you sure you're 18?
Why, do I look older?
Edmund, you're supposed to be helping me with the groceries.
Good luck next time, eh, Squirt?
Squirt? The king?
Not in this world.
Listen, have you seen the ship before?
It's very Narnian looking, isn't it? What's going on here? Edmund, the painting.
Welcome. You have come far, but your journey lies beyond.
Rikishi!
Your Majesty. So if there are no wars to fight, then why are we here?
You are all about to be tested.
Edmund, I can make you my king, and much more.
Beautiful.
You've got an extraordinary destiny. Something greater than you could have imagined.
From C.S. Lewis's epic masterpiece,
The fate of Narnia depends on you.
this Christmas.
This place just gets weirder and weirder.
You have returned for a reason. Your adventure begins now. Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Directed by Michael Apted, this December in digital 3D.
Or some people back in the day called it more like Voyage of the Yawn Treader. Yeah, welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 4 films of December 10th, 2010. And our first movie is, of course, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the third installment in the series, the last film to be released in the theatrically before the series stopped. But, of course, Netflix recently is planning to do a new series of films directed by Greta Gerwig and Barbie. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit here. But this is the third installment of the series. And unlike the last movie, which was released in the summertime, which was not a bit smart move by Disney because the first movie did so well during the holiday season, Fox took it over and they decided why break what isn't broken, put this back in December, and the results were good, I guess. I mean, it was their highest grossing film of the year, which isn't really saying a whole lot when you look at Fox's 2010 slate, but it's set 3 Narnian years after the events of Prince Caspian. The 2 youngest Pevensie siblings, Edmund and Lucy, are transported back to Narnia along with their cousin Eustace Scrubb, played by Will Poulter in one of his early film roles. They join the new king of Narnia, Caspian, Ben Barnes, in his quest to rescue 7 lost lords and save Narnia from a corrupting evil. I cannot talk right now. In his quest to rescue 7 lost lords and save Narnia from a corrupting evil on a dark island. Each character is tested as they journey to the home of Aslan at the world's far end. Aslan, once again, played by Liam Neeson. You have Simon Pegg back as the mouse character, Reaper Cheap, and also you have, of course, you got to have Tilda Swinton back as the White Queen, because why the hell not? This really isn't the best of the Chronicles of Narnia movies, but it isn't a bad movie per se. In fact, honestly, none of these movies are really terrible per se. They're just nothing that special compared to, like, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. They were basically made to give Disney their answer to those franchises, and Disney's no longer attached to it. It's now 20th Century Fox taking up the threshold, and what we get here is fun, I guess, but nothing really that spectacular or that amazing to make me say, this is one you gotta check out. I mean, if you love the other Chronicles of Narnia movies, you're probably gonna enjoy this one in particular too, but other than that, though, not much more to say about this one. There really isn't anything about this that makes it all that inspiring or amazing. But you got nice visuals. The cast overall is pretty good. And, hey, Michael Apted's a decent director overall. And get a chance to see him do a blockbuster film here. That's about all I got for you on this one here. I barely remember this one. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. More like The Voyage of the Yawn Treader. Let's have some more laughs because our next movie is Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie, and that is The Taurus. And the reason why I bring up it's a comedy was because that the Golden Globe Awards, in their infinite wisdom and clearly not being bribed by anybody from the studios or any agents of these celebrities to give these movies nominations back then, nominated this movie as one of the nominees for the Best Motion Picture, Comedy, or Musical. And let's take a look at this trailer and see how many laughs we get as we look at this trailer for The Tourist.
Alexander Beers, wanted in 14 countries. It's in you ahead.
You were part of the plan.
This is exactly why she chose him, to distract us.
I'm sorry I got involved.
This is why you involved. You wish to report a murder. Then that's serious.
Not when you downgraded from murder, but when you upgraded from murder, I guess it's quite serious.
Oh, how hilarious was that? None, I know. Yeah, that was a controversy that was around back then. This thing got 3 Golden Globe nominations, even though the movie was trashed by critics, was a flop at the box office, and yet it still found its way to 3 Golden Globe nominations. for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy for Angelina Jolie, Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy, Johnny Depp, and Best Musical or Comedy. The fact that the film was promoted originally as a romantic thriller, that trailer has no comedy in it whatsoever. I mean, the Golden Globes were mocked for this badly, and it was later revealed that the film originally was submitted as a drama, but the director, Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck, then told the Hollywood Film Press Association that it should be categorized as a comedy for no reason, and Philip, the president, said, given the differing opinions, we asked the studio to screen the film for us in advance, and collectively we decided that the elements of preposterous fun lent the film more to a comedy than a straight drama category. That's how we got to this point. I mean, like, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association was, I said Hollywood Film Press Association, it was the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, but they were very corrupt back then. I mean, they weren't even trying to hide it. Remember, this is the Golden Globe Awards that nominated Pia Zadora as the best new star for terrible movies like Butterfly, and were later revealed that they were taking on trips as bribes. I mean, they weren't even hiding the fact that they were doing this. They still do it to this very day, even though they probably are very secretive about it nowadays after what happened when NBC dropped them. But, yeah. The bottom line here is that this ain't a comedy, nor is it a good movie. But I get the idea of what they were trying to accomplish originally, but yeah, this film's more notable for the fact that it screwed over the Golden Globe Awards. So I'm trying to give you an idea of what the plot is here. That's why the screen went black for a second. But Angelina Jolie plays Elise, sitting next to an American tourist played by Johnny Depp named Frank, on a train going to Venice. She has chosen him as a decoy for Alexander Pierce, making believe that he is her lover who is wanted by police. Not only will they need to evade the police, but also the mobster whose money her lover stole. And you have characters played by Paul Bettany, Timothy Dalton, Stephen Burkhoff, Rufus Sewell, and yeah, this is one of the stupidest movies ever. Even if you want to say that this is a comedy, this isn't a good comedy whatsoever. This is a terrible movie that wastes the talents of these two great actors. Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp have proven time and time again how good of actors they can really be, and this is definitely a movie that isn't anything noteworthy of their true talents. Even if it was built as a comedy, even if it was supposed to be this homage to like classic classic 60s movies like, you know, North by Northwest, or what's another one, you know, those movies like that, which I get that's kind of what they're trying to do here. It's basically a travel romance with thriller elements, but that's what the director said. But at the same time, like, it's really dumb. It's really stupid. You don't get invested in the characters whatsoever. The twists they throw all over the place is just so ridiculous. And this is not written by hacks either. One of the writers is Julian Fellows, who that same year gave us Downton Abbey. The other writer is Christopher McQuarrie, and look at what he's done since then, working well with Tom Cruise on the Mission Impossible movies and the Top Gun films. But here, it just doesn't work. This is a lousy film with a script that is so convoluted and so confused on what it's trying to be, with a mystery that makes no sense whatsoever. It's a mess. It's a mess of a film all across the board. Whether you want to consider it a comedy or a drama or not, I think we can all agree about one thing. It's a steaming pile of shit. Plain and simple. So yeah, that's the Taurus for you. So let's go ahead and get to some good movies. And boy, we have a winner here. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. This is definitely, it's another one of those movies that should have won the Best Picture Oscar over The King's Speech. That is Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale starring in David O. Russell's The Fighter.
I have a fight next week. After I win, I'm gonna start making good money so you can let me more days.
Good luck, Daddy.
Don't hold your breath, Casey.
Bye, baby.
Time magazine says The Fighter is Rocky, plus The Blind Side, plus The Departed, but it's more satisfying than any of them.
Mickey has a chance to do something that I never did, and he needs me.
Okay, I'll see you in Mickey's corner.
It's one of the best films of the year.
My shot. I won't get another one after this.
The Fighter, rated R, in theaters December 17th.
And yes, I realize how awkward this is wearing it now after the news of what broke a couple of hours ago of Stephen Colbert's Late Show getting canceled because of financial decisions. But we'll save that for the Reviewing Network Live. But anyway, I bring this up because this is also a Paramount movie too. The Fighter. David O. Russell directed this movie, and it's about the lives of professional boxers Mickey Ward, played by Mark Wahlberg, and his older half-brother and former boxer Dickie Edlin, played by Christian Bale. It's inspired by the 1995 documentary High on Crack Street, Lost Lives in the Well, And for David O. Russell, this was a pretty big deal, because after I Heart Huckabees and the controversy behind that movie, what happened behind the scenes of that, it was hard for him to get work overall, and most people thought his career was pretty much over and done with. But then, all of a sudden, this movie comes along, and all of a sudden, his career is back on track, because he would pretty much own the rest of the decade with the movies that he would make, and you can see why this movie is so good. I mean, you have a great script by Scott Silver, Paul Tomasi, and Eric Johnson, along with great performances by all the stars in here. Everybody in here is great. Mark Wahlberg, in a role that, again, should have gotten him an Academy Award instead of Colin Firth. Amy Adams, Melissa Leo won an Academy Award for this performance, which was really good. And Christian Bale, I mean, Christian Bale was excellent in the movie. As much as Mark Wahlberg's great, Christian Bale was just so transcendent and so incredible playing the role of Dickie Eklund. He really cemented that role and made it his own, and he just made it work so well. He was so good in here. Like, he really is the thing that transforms this movie in general. I mean, this is going back to what he did for The Machinist in terms of a performance, where he just transforms into this completely other person altogether. This isn't the same guy who's Batman. This isn't the same guy who's Patrick Bateman. Like, this is a performance that you get a lot of flashbacks to what he did with The Machinist, and it just plays so well here. And you can see why he won the Oscar, because he just knocks it out of the park. He's the one thing you remember the most out of this movie. Even though everybody else in the movie is absolutely great, his performance really is the big standout in this movie. And this is just such a terrific film. A great return to form for David O. Russell when he needed it the most. The Fighter. What more can you say about it? The Fighter was one of the year's best movies, and it's not hard to see why. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Julie Taymor's The Tempest. Of course, this is based off of William Shakespeare's last play that came out. This is the story of Prospera, which the notable difference here is that in this version of the story, the gender of the main character is changed from male to female, so that she's played by Helen Mirren. She's the Duchess of Milan, who's secretly denounced as a sorceress and usurped by her brother Antonio, played by Chris Cooper, with aid from Alonso, played by David Strathairn, the King of Naples. And is cast off on a small boat to die with her 3-year-old daughter Miranda. They survive, finding themselves stranded on the island with the human beast Caliban, played by Jaime Hansu. Prospera enslaves Caliban, frees the captive spirit Ariel, played by Ben Whishaw, and claims the island. After 12 years, Alonso sails back to the kingdom after the marriage of his daughter to the Prince of Tunisia, accompanied by her son Ferdinand, played by Reeve Carney, her brother Sebastian, and Antonio, Sebastian played by Alan Cumming. Prospera, seeking her chances for revenge with Ariel's help, causes a tempest, wrecking the ship and stranding those on board on her island. This is, of course, Julie Taymor's feature follow-up to Across the Universe, which I thought was a terrific film. I definitely thought it was one of the more underrated movies that came out in that decade. This one, not so much. This is actually one of the last movies released by Touchstone Pictures before Disney essentially made DreamWorks at the time a little bit of their Touchstone. I mean, Touchstone Pictures was still around, but most of Touchstone's movies were coming from DreamWorks Pictures. You would still get a couple here and there, but it was mostly coming from DreamWorks in general. But unlike Across the Universe, where it's a visually pleasing movie to look at and has a good story and great music, the visuals are great, but what do we always say here on this channel? The visuals don't always make the movie. And as much as the film tries to do something unique and different with the story in general, changing genres around and changing things around, it just can't quite make that leap to make it the extra level of greatness that this thing could really be. It's a visually impressive movie to look at, and on Blu-ray it looks incredible. On an HD TV it looks amazing, but when you watch the film overall, yeah, the visuals are great, but what else are you giving me here? This is like the equivalent of that movie The Fountain with Hugh Jackman and Rachel Weisz, the Darren Aronofsky film from a couple of years back. That's what it reminded me of when I watched this movie. A visually pleasing movie to look at, but everything else kind of mid at best, nothing that amazing, and it's a shame because the talent is all over the movie. Helen Mirren, Ben Whishaw, Jaime Hansu, Felicity Jones, one of her early film roles, David Strathairn, Tom Conti, Chris Cooper, Alan Cumming, Alfred Molina, Russell Brand. I mean, there's a good cast involved in here. just not enough there to make the film a movie that has to be seen. It's just, yeah, watching on a visual level, it's great. Other than that, not so much. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's a skip on The Tempest. Beautiful to look at, but not in the scripting department, unfortunately.
Okay? It's just a game! Not anymore.
And you can only imagine what people were like when they went to the Race to Witch Mountain Comic-Con panel in 2008 and saw that trailer play at the end of it. Because that's where that first trailer came out, was in 2008. And nobody knew that this movie was even existing. Nobody even knew this thing was a reality. And it took it was 2 years after that trailer came out before the movie finally made its debut in theaters. As I welcome you to another episode of Time About the Movies. December 17, 2010, we got 5 films to look at. And needless to say, the biggest of the new releases is Tron Legacy. And this is, of course, a sequel to the 1982 cult classic Tron, which was not the big hit back then in terms of the box office, but it was a critical success back then for its impressive visuals at the time, and has since gone on to have this massive cult following, which led to the sequel finally coming together in 2005, and then the trailer first came out in 2008, and now we have it here in 2010. And we follow the story of Flynn, Jeff Bridges once again, and his adult son Sam, played by Garrett Hedlund, who responds to a message from his long-lost father and is transported into the virtual reality called the Grid, where Sam, his father, and the algorithm Cora, played by Olivia Wilde, must stop the malevolent program Clue, played by another version of Jeff Bridges, which he looks like the Jeff Bridges from the 1982 movie, while his father, you see in the trailer there, from invading the real world. And yeah, needless to say, this is definitely a much different looking movie than the first film. The visual effects have obviously been updated for a new generation. You can tell there's a lot of influence on the Matrix in general. And, you know, you got that great music by Daft Punk. I mean, this is a movie that, it was very interesting when it came out, because this was set up to be the big holiday blockbuster of the season. I mean, Disney put this in the same spot that Lord of the Rings was in. They put this in the same spot that Narnia was in. They were hoping for the big success, and it did become a success, but maybe not the success that most people were expecting it to be. Critics were mostly mixed on the movie in general, but the film overall did well enough to secure, you know, its own legacy behind it, because now there's a Tron attraction of the Magic Kingdom. And, you know, I was talking about it yesterday. We had the Tron Ares trailer drop again, the new one, which is coming out in October of this year with Jared Leto in it. So, yeah, there's a lot of things about the movie that have held up with this since this has come out. I remember going to see this back then, and I really enjoyed it. I love the first Tron movie. So, yeah, naturally, I was really looking forward to seeing what they do with this one here. And I'll say this, it has gotten a lot better since I've seen it. I liked it back then. I really like it now. I think the visuals still hold up. I think the music by Daft Punk still holds up after all these years. I mean, that music overall is just great to watch. The cast overall is great. Garrett Hedlund, I think, is very good. Olivia Wilde. Jeff Bridges playing dual roles in here. Very nicely done. The visuals, like I said, are great. The production design overall is really good. The story is fine, I guess, but it's kind of a precursor to what the Legacy sequel has now become. It's just like, here's this group of new characters, and hey, we're going to bring back somebody from the first movie again, and in this case, it's Jeff Bridges, and, you know, this was back when this was kind of a new thing, and not what it's become nowadays, which, speaking of Legacy sequels, Joseph Kosinski, of course, would later go on to create the Legacy sequel that kind of has influenced this new generation of this new stretch of Legacy sequels, Top Gun Maverick, which was a good movie. I won't say it's a great movie. I don't like it as much as everybody else does, but I don't hate it either. I was just never really much of a Top Gun person in general, and I think the Bob's Burgers movie on that same weekend was the far better movie. At least in my opinion it was, But anyway, that's a whole other thing altogether. But Tron Legacy, I think, is a very good film. I think it is a film that elevates the previous film to another level, upgrades the ante, ups the ante, upgrades the visuals in general. I think they deliver everything you can ask for and then some. It was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the next one, where they have the programs coming into the real world. I think they can do a lot with that, especially with the director they got for this movie coming up, who also did The Young Woman in the Sea and also Kon-Tiki. But then again, he also did Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, as well as Maleficent, Rise of Evil, I think it was. And those sequels are not that great, so it could go either way with that movie, but Tron Legacy was pretty good, and one I highly recommend checking out, especially with the new one coming up. Definitely check it out. It's actually worth a watch. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is the animated live-action hybrid, Yogi Bear.
Welcome to the 100th anniversary of Jellystone!
I heard you had an unusual brown bear.
Brown bear?
One that talks, those are so rare.
None that I can think of.
I smell PB&J.
I think he's trying to steal your lunchbox.
I'm okay. Kick it, boo-boo.
Kicking it.
We got a bear disturbance. All units, lock down the park. Repeat, lock down the park.
Jones, you know I'm the only other ranger here, right?
Yeah.
Bears are supposed to avoid people, not run around stealing their food.
Boo-boo and I would never think of disturbing a family's picnic. I wonder if he noticed the pie.
You do come up with some good plans, Yogi.
Here we go! That's because I'm smarter than the average bear.
Yogi, grab my paw!
I'm so smart it hurts.
Yogi Bear in 3D.
This isn't gonna make me look fat, is it?
It's one of those movies that you think is dead on arrival, but, you know, the funny thing is, most people thought Dan Aykroyd was going to be the safe bet with this movie, because, you know, Dan Aykroyd has got that distinctive voice for Yogi Bear. It works very well for him. He's fine in the movie, but really no one really thought that Justin Timberlake, of all people, was going to work so well as Boo Boo. But he's the one that really does capture the spirit of Dawes Butler of Don Messick, excuse me. Dawes Butler was Yogi Bear, but Don Messick as Boo Boo. I think he did a fantastic job in this movie in particular. The story here is very simple. You've got Yogi Bear trying to save Jellystone Park from being logged over by essentially the David Cross of this movie, played by Andrew Daly. And of course, he's got Ranger Smith, played by Tom Cavanaugh. There's this reporter, played by Anna Faris, and you know, he has this side. He's got this side ranger played by T.J. Miller, which is funny because he actually auditioned with a real bear for this particular movie. I thought that was kind of interesting in general here. And again, this is a type of film that could easily fall apart, but honestly, compared to stuff like Garfield, Alvin and the Chipmunks, and the Smurfs, this is actually one of the better adaptations of a cartoon that you could possibly get here. And it's not a long movie at all. It's only 80 minutes long. But when you add in this, takes it to about 90 minutes in length. And again, it's another one of those movies that has a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner short in front of it. So of course I went to go see it when it came out. And yeah, overall, I thought the movie was fine. I thought it was a fun movie in general. It sticks to the point of the cartoon. It sticks to the concept of the cartoon. They don't add elevating levels to it that makes it more complicated than it needs to be. Like, there's no spiritual existential crisis going on like in Fat Albert. There isn't, you know, an overabundance of like poop and fart jokes like in Alvin and the Chipmunks. There isn't a sense that the people had no idea what they were doing when they were making Garfield. Like, you don't have the actor who's playing Garfield thinking that he stepped into a Coen Brothers movie, and you know. and not the Coen brothers you think they are, but the other Coen brothers. But no, this is a very simple, straightforward plot and a very simple, straightforward story. It's not asking you to do anything different or unique compared to the animated shorts that follow this. Just stick to the formula, and you'll get a good movie out of it. A fun movie overall. I won't even say good movie, but a fun movie overall. Like, this is the type of movie where I will probably be very much alone on this, but I actually did enjoy this a lot more than most people give it credit for. I think it works mostly because the acting is very good. Dan Aykroyd and Justin Timberlake really do make these characters work. The rest of the cast overall is a mixed bag. Tom Cavanaugh's just kind of half-assed, and then not as much as Jason Lee does in Alvin and the Chipmunks. Anna Faris doesn't have as many funny moments as you would expect from her. T.J. Miller I thought was not bad in here. Neither was Andrew Daly, who's kind of, like I said, he's basically playing the equivalent to David Cross's character in Alvin and the Chipmunks, and not as funny as he is in those movies, but funny enough. And like I said, it's no classic by any means necessary. It's the type of movie that you need to go into it knowing what it's going to be, and you might actually enjoy it more than most people, than you would like to give it credit for. It's definitely a movie I would say is a lot better than it makes it out to be, but I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece by any means necessary. But if you want a good adaptation that sticks tried and true more than something like Garfield, Alvin the Chipmunks, or the Smurfs, Yogi Bear might be the right way to go with it. At least in my opinion it is. So, yeah, I highly recommend it. Just on that front alone. Maybe not highly recommended, but I recommend it for a one-time watch, maybe. With all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. The movie that you would not expect this to be a flop, considering it comes from the Academy Award-winning filmmaker of Terms of Endearment, Broadcast News, and As Good as It Gets, and includes a cast that includes Paul Rudd, Owen Wilson, Reese Witherspoon, and Jack Nicholson. How do you know?
Tonight I start acting enormously upset. I don't want you to ask me what's wrong. Is that okay with you?
Actually, that's my preference.
I don't know if I have what it takes for everybody's regular plan.
It's not a ring. Well, you don't have to look so relieved about it.
Son, I have some disturbing news.
What?
They're going to indict you.
George, how are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah.
That trailer kind of gives you an indication of the things that are wrong with this movie. It is definitely all over the place. Like, it literally is a film that is so all over the place in terms of the story and the characters in here. You have a story about a softball player played by Reese Witherspoon who's caught in a love triangle between two men. Her boyfriend, played by Owen Wilson, and a businessman who is the target of an SEC stock fraud suit, played by Paul Rudd. And his father is Jack Nicholson in what would be his final film performance before he would eventually retire. And yeah, not the best way to go out on, but okay, so it doesn't look that it doesn't look that terrible in general. It just looks kind of bland. So why is this considered one of the biggest bombs of all time? Well, the budget on this movie was $120 million, and I know what you're thinking. Where the fuck did they spend $120 million on this movie? Well, let's put it this way. James L. Brooks actually started working on this film 5 years prior to this in 2005. He essentially interviewed numerous women for hundreds of hours in researching the film, and also became invested in the dilemmas of contemporary business executives who are sometimes held accountable by the law for corporate behavior, on which they may not even be aware of. He essentially created Paul Rudd and Jack Nicholson's character for this concept alone. So already you have an already complicated subplot of the storyline as it is, and then you add this other element of the story that really does not add up here. But also this film finished filming in November of 2009, and then Brooks later reshot the film's opening and ending. And so the film essentially went up to $120 million with a net budget of $100 million after tax rebates from Pennsylvania and the District of Columbia. But on top of that, the salaries were ridiculous on this. James L. Brooks got $10 million. Reese Witherspoon got $15 million. Jack Nicholson got $12 million. Owen Wilson got $10 million. Paul Rudd got $3 million. This was back before Paul Rudd became the Paul Rudd that became more notable for stuff like Ant-Man and all that. But that's $50 million of the budget alone on this. And Brooks' slow and meticulous production and post-production process was also given as reasons for the size of the budget in general here. And, you know, this is the same guy who made I'll Do Anything, which was supposed to be this musical, but they had to re-edit it out of it, all musical elements out of it, and because the test reel was not that great. And that film failed miserably at the box office too, even though it wasn't that bad of a movie. But this, This is definitely a film that just felt like it was so all over the place in terms of what they were trying to accomplish here. What was the point of the storyline here? What was the point of the subplot with Paul Rudd and Jack Nicholson? Like, this didn't feel like classic James L. Brooks. This didn't feel like the James L. Brooks we knew from stuff like Broadcast News and Terms of Endearment, or even the stuff he did on television with the Mary Tyler Moore Show, or The Simpsons, or Taxi, all those shows. It doesn't feel like that. It just feels like a director who thought he could have that magic again and do what he usually does, but, you know, times change in terms of how you make a movie like this, and you don't make a movie like this for $120 million and expect to make that back if you can't even figure out what the simple concept of it should be. And sadly, that's what happens here with the movie. I mean, everybody's trying their best in terms of the acting in here, but even they can't save this film in general. And you can see why it took James L. Brooks nearly 15 years to get back on track with another movie. He's got another one coming out this fall, Ella McKay, which it says it comes out on December the 12th, so technically we're not too far away from getting a trailer pretty soon. So, I don't know, maybe in the next couple of months or so. We probably get a new trailer coming up soon. But other than that, though, it's just like, this really does not feel like James L. Brooks at his best. This feels like a James L. Brooks who's struggling to, like, keep up the pace with the new generation of filmmaking in general, and it really does hurt the film in general here. It's a film that's just so all over the place, convoluted, such a mess of a film. You expect so much better with the talent involved in here, and you get one of the biggest mess-ups in a long, long time. I mean, this thing was a disaster on the level of Town and Country. That's how bad this is. If you have to compare yourself to something like Town and Country, that's a problem. That's a massive, massive problem with this movie. So how do you know? Let's go ahead and move on to some indie films now, including Nicole Kidman starring in John Cameron Mitchell to Rabbit Hole. So in this movie, Nicole Kidman and Aaron Eckhart are a happily married couple whose perfect world is forever changed when their young son Danny is killed by a car. Becca, an executive-turned-stay-at-home mother, tries to redefine her existence in a surreal landscape of well-meaning family and friends. Painful, poignant, and often funny, Becca's experiences lead her to find solace in a mysterious relationship with a troubled young comic book artist, Jason, played by Miles Teller in one of his early film roles, the teenage driver of the car that killed Denny. So, yeah, that's awkward. Becca's fixation with Jason pulls her away from memories of Danny while Howie immerses himself in the past, seeking refuge in outsiders who offer him something Becca is unable to give. The corporates, both adrift, make surprising and dangerous choices as they choose a path that will determine their fate. So, yeah, this is this is a trend with Nicole Kidman, apparently. Like, she stars in these movies where she gets the younger guy in here, and I'm not questioning her or anything. I just think that's very odd that we have that here, but I mean, she's good in the movie, and you can see why she got an Oscar nomination for Best Actress here. Kind of reminds me a lot of Revolutionary Road from a few years back, except nowhere near as gritty and as dark as that movie was. This thing just is fine, I guess. It's nothing that amazing, nothing too spectacular. I think that it's one of those ones where the performances really do stand out more than the actual movie itself. Everybody in here, I think, does a very good job in terms of the performances in general, but it's one of those ones where you watch it once, it's just kind of like, I'm glad I saw it, but I have no real intentions of watching this again. That's overall my thinking on this movie. Good, nothing great overall. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie. That's Kevin Spacey as Casino Jack.
You're out of order. Out of order? You're out of order. Oh, sweet. This whole Senate hearing is out of order.
Oh shit! Kevin Spacey's defending himself in court. That's the worst thing that could happen here. But this is Casino Jack, focusing on the career of a Washington D.C. lobbyist and businessman, Jack Abramoff, played by Kevin Spacey, who's involved in a massive corruption scandal that leads to his conviction, as well as the conviction of 2 White House officials, Representative Bob Ney and 9 other lobbyists and congressional staffers. Abramoff was convicted of fraud, conspiracy, and tax evasion in 2006, and served 3.5 years of a 6-year sentence in federal prison before he was released on December 3rd, 2010, coincidentally 2 weeks before the movie came out. So, hey, he got a chance to see this movie that he was in. And this is notable because this is directed by George Hickenlooper, who passed away nearly 2 months before this movie came out in October. I can't remember what he died of. I think he died of, they said it was it says here they died of a supposed heart attack, but the coroner ruled that his death was more of an accidental painkiller overdose, sleep apnea, and a moderately enlarged heart that are seen as the contributing factors. But he did direct one really good movie, The Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse, a documentary about Apocalypse Now. And I would like to say that this movie is a good way to go out on him, but not really. You can tell by that little bit of the trailer there, it's all over the place in terms of the style, the humor, what they're trying to go for here. It was a really good cast. Kevin Spacey, Barry Pepper, Kelly Preston, John Lovitz, Rachel LaFear, Maury Chaykin. Good talent all around in this movie, but kind of like with Rabbit Hole, just not much there to make it stand out on its own. This is definitely not a good movie. And, Kevin Spacey's fine in here, but, I mean, it's Kevin Spacey. I mean, say what you will about him in real life, the guy gets a hell of an actor, and he's trying his best to say whatever he can with this. It's just not there, man. And this thing is just, it's largely forgettable. In fact, I've pretty much already forgotten about it since I've seen it, so. Not much more to say about that one. That's Casino Jack.
Will you still physically attracted to my daughter, Greg?
Yes, it's all good under the hood.
You've met his parents.
What is your grandpa doing?
Jack. Lift up your leg.
Well, if you think you've seen it all.
I want you to represent our new tribe.
It's an erectile dysfunction medicine.
Do you mind explaining this?
You're in for a big surprise.
You've had that for more than 4 hours, you gotta get a shot.
There's no way I'm going to a ER room with this thing.
Little fuckers. Rated PG-13.
Oh, this movie. Welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 5 films of December 24th, 2010. Christmas weekend, of course, and the biggest new release of them all is Little Fockers, the third installment of the Meet the Parents series, which the decade started off with Meet the Parents back in 2000, and it was a massive hit. Meet the Fockers ended up being a bigger hit 4 years after that, and we had to wait only 6 years between those movies to eventually get to this film, not made by the same people who made the last 2 movies, except John Hamburg, the writer of those 2 movies, back for this one. But other than that, though, it's mostly new people, except for the cast, of course. Main players are back in town here, and a couple new additions here, and some people who weren't planning to be in this movie, but they pushed them back in anyway. This is one of those movies that had one of those bizarre production histories behind it, and yeah, it's definitely one we're talking about. It has taken 10 years, 2 little Fockers and his wife Pam, and countless hurdles for Greg to finally get in with his tightly wound father-in-law Jack. After the cash-strapped dad takes a job moonlighting for a drug company, however, Jack's suspicions about his favorite male nurse come roaring back. While Greg and Pam's entire clan, including Pam's lovelorn ex Kevin, played by Owen Wilson, descend for the twins' birthday party, Greg must prove to the skeptical Jack that he's fully capable as the man of the house. But with all the misunderstandings, spying, and covert missions, will Greg pass Jack's final test and become the family's next patriarch, or will the circle of trust be broken for good? What do you think is going to happen in this really pointless sequel where it literally has no reason to exist except for the fact that they want a trilogy so bad for this movie, and boy, they struggled to get it. Let me tell you, you wouldn't think that this movie had that many problems behind the scenes, but nope, this thing had a huge production problem. Maybe not quite as bad as How Do You Know, which also starred Owen Wilson, which we talked about last time, but let's put it this way. The film was originally scheduled for July 2010. They pushed it back to December, later revealed to be deliberately delayed only because it was, at the time, the delay announcement that the character of Dustin Hoffman was coming back to play the role. However, they didn't announce that until way into August. A trailer had already dropped for this movie in June, and there was no mention of Dustin Hoffman's character returning, so they had to reshoot everything to get Dustin Hoffman back in here. And then, in addition to both Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller basically getting $20 million for the role, the budget on this skyrocketed to $100 million for this movie. A Meet the Parents movie should not cost $100 million. I don't care what happens here. Nothing happens in a Meet the Parents movie that warrants that big of a budget. And yeah, it made its money back. It made $310 million worldwide, but it was still the lesser of the three. It was still made less than the previous movies, and it was panned by critics. And not only panned, destroyed by them. I mean, this movie, I've been building this one up for a while now because it is definitely one of the worst sequels you will ever see in your life. It's one of those movies where they don't have a good story. They have ideas they have little ideas and things that they build up and establish, but they never take the time to fully expand on the story. They start it and then it just pushes it aside. Laura Dern's character is the character played by Laura Dern. There's a subplot where she plays the head of this school, and Greg's trying to get his kid in there, and you think that's going to be a big subplot. Never gets mentioned again. Harvey Keitel stars in this movie. You think he's going to have a big role in here? Never mentioned again. Dustin Hoffman, like I said, coming in here, you think that they're making a big deal about him coming in here. He barely shows up in this movie and like it really would have been better if he had just not showed up altogether. Like you would have just said, "Oh, Dustin Hoffman's character's off somewhere. Like he's off in Narnia or something like that. I don't know, Narnia or something like that." Because his character really does not add anything to this movie per se. The whole thing about this movie is repeating the same goddamn tropes we had the last time around. Because the last two movies, Ben Stiller had to earn Robert De Niro's trust. He did it twice. And now for some reason, we got to do it again. And, Jack's got to have this plan to, be his successor to the family. And he decides to pass the role to Greg, naming him, you know what's coming if you've seen this movie, The Godfucker. The Godfucker. That's even worse than Robert De Niro imitating Taxi Driver in the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie. That was bad, but that at least had a point to it. This, there's no excuse for this. There's also no excuse for the bad attempts at comedy in here. Gross out comedy, too. There's poop jokes. There's jokes of people getting cut. There's a lot of screaming. There's a scene you see a little bit in the trailer there where Robert De Niro has to have Ben Stiller stick a needle in his penis because he took an erectile dysfunction drug, and with the kid watching him and all that, it caused him to break his arm. Funny stuff, right? I know. But, yeah, this movie is an ungodly mess of a movie. But nothing pales in comparison to the worst thing about this movie, and that is Jessica Alba. It's hard to believe that nearly 10 years ago she had this promising career with Dark Angel, and then she started in Honey, and then she was in the Fantastic Four. But ever since then, it's been nothing but crap after crap after crap. Into the Blue, Good Luck Chuck, Awake, The Eye, The Love Guru, but this right here may be the worst of the worst because not only is she playing a pointless character who's there to be a third wheel that Ben Stiller wants nothing to do with whatsoever. If there was even a scene where their connection was there and there was a little bit of chemistry, then maybe her purpose could be there, but there is absolutely nothing that Ben Stiller and Jessica Alba have in terms of chemistry. It's clear that Ben Stiller is a happily married man, and Jessica Alba just can't take it. Like, she literally just cannot take it, and is willing to do whatever it takes to somehow add an element of this that does not need to be there, being the third wheel in the storyline. And her attempts at comedy in here are so fucking terrible. You want proof? Take a look at this.
Andy, no! That's not nice. Don't throw people's phones and fits. Andy, put the clothes back on. Oh, no! Whoa!
It's bad enough if I have to praise her and Good Luck Chuck and The Love Guru for at least trying to be funny, trying to be screwballish. That's how you know this movie is fucked up big time. Her character is only there so Jack can have this big misunderstanding where he thinks that Greg is cheating on his daughter, and there was not one point in this movie where that is even the slightest possibility. But no, we got to have it in there so we can have this incredibly pointless scene where Ben Stiller and Robert De Niro beat the crap out of each other at the kid's birthday party. That's all. That's the only reason we have this in this movie. This is a pathetic attempt to try to create a trilogy that was never intended to be a trilogy whatsoever. I've always had this thing with comedy sequels. The best time to do a comedy sequel is 2 to 4 years. 5 years, maybe. Anything after that, you might as well just abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Because we have seen time and time again what happens when comedy sequels take way too long after the last movie to get made. We've had some real bad movies. We've had some really terrible stinkers. And this right here is definitely high up there with some of the worst comedy sequels ever made. And the shocker of all shock is that we thought we were done with this series after this film, but nope. Universal has already scheduled a 4th movie coming out next November. And hey, we've got Ariana Grande in it too, and we might as well make another movie before Robert De Niro, Blythe Danner, hell, Dustin Hoffman and Barbra Streisand don't have much time left on this earth. Let's make another one. Why? Because Meet the Parents is money, baby. Even though this movie was completely trounced by everybody and nobody remembers this movie whatsoever. I don't get it, man. I don't get it with these movies. With this film in particular, I don't get. The other two, I can understand. But this is the worst of the worst. And the fact that somebody at Universal has the nerve and the audacity to say, we need to make more of this. It's like Garfield. Whoever that is, I feel like Garfield. Whoever made that decision should be drugged down to the street and shot. Plain and simple. But, I seriously don't do that. This is a joke, folks. These are the jokes. But this movie sucks. This is a terrible way to start the holiday season for, honestly, a pretty lackluster holiday movie season when you really look back on it. I mean, the best movies we saw were the Oscar contenders this year. I mean, we had Black Swan. We have another one coming up in just a little bit here. 127 Hours. What was another one we talked about? Not Winter's Bone, because we did that in the summer. But we've seen all these other... The Fighter was another one. We've seen all these Oscar contenders. Those are the ones that usually aren't the stronger movies of the holiday season in terms of main releases. But this year in particular, it's been kind of a dull stretch. I mean, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was good. Tangled was really good. We had Tron Legacy. We did have some good mainstream stuff here and there, but in terms of... But this right here is just a prime example of what happens when studios are so desperate for a quick buck. They say, make a sequel, fuck a script, we'll let the film work itself out, and it just doesn't work. So, yeah, I think you get the hint here. A hard skip on Little Fockers. So, speaking of the big Oscar contenders, here's another one that easily should have won the Oscar over The King's Speech for Best Picture. The Coen Brothers remake of True Grit.
In your years as U.S. Marshal, how many men have you shot?
Shot or killed?
Tom Chaney killed my father, and I need somebody to go after him. Can we depart this afternoon?
Wait. I'm a Texas Ranger. It is at least a two-man job taking Chaney alive.
I do not regret shooting your father.
What is your intention? I mean to kill you today.
Help me.
I can do nothing for you, son.
Rated PG-13, December 22nd.
This is, of course, based off of the 1969 John Wayne movie that won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, and the novel by Charlie Portis. And in this film, it revolves around the 14-year-old girl named Maddie Ross, now played by Haley Steinfeld in her feature film debut, seeking revenge for the death of her father by Tom Chaney, played by Josh Brolin. To get revenge for her father's death, she seeks out Rooster Cogburn, played by Jeff Bridges, and Texas Ranger LaBeouf, played by Matt Damon, to assist her in getting revenge. Now, at the time I saw this movie, I didn't see the 1969 movie, but... I mean, it's you know who John Wayne is. I mean, my grandmother was loved John Wayne so much. She had pictures in her house for the longest time, and when she eventually passed away, she still had those pictures, and we were able to bring them into our home too. But I mean, what more can you say about John Wayne? I've seen the movie since then, and it's a classic movie, a great Western all across the board, and this one was really interesting because I thought at the time that the remake's really good. I mean, this is a really good movie. It will probably not as good as the original, but having seen both of them, I gotta admit, this is definitely one of the best, if not one of the best remakes I've ever made. Like, this is a movie that is right up there with the original True Grit. I mean, this is a movie where Jeff Bridges gives another great standout performance as Rooster Cogburn. I really would have liked to have seen her get another Oscar for this. And Haley Steinfeld, we know what she is nowadays. She starred in the Pitch Perfect movies. She was Justin Sinner. She's Gwen Stacy in the Spider-Verse movies. She's proven her worth as an actress time and time again. You get great performances by Josh Brolin and Matt Damon. They're kind of the lesser parts of the movie, but overall they're really good. The shooting sequences are very well done. It really is a great movie that fits so well for what the Coen brothers should bring to the table This is really one of their best movies that they've done, up there with The Big Lebowski and No Country for Old Men and Fargo. This is definitely high up there with some of their best movies, easily. And one that I really think should have gotten a Best Picture Oscar. I mean, it really is one of the best movies of the year, and again, another great movie that was much better than the actual Best Picture winner in The King's Speech. I'm sorry I keep harping on this, but I'm sorry. The King's Speech is not a good movie. Plain and simple, so. But anyway, that's True Grit for you. Let's go ahead and get on to our next movie. A movie that you would think would be the worst movie of the weekend, but with Little Fockers, it's not that. It's not that. It's still bad, but I'll explain it when we get to after I show you a little bit from Gulliver's Travels.
Give me your press badge. No way, you're not my dad. Then I shall take it by force. Oh, he's my brother. Then you shouldn't have made out with him. What do you hope to get out of being in the mailroom?
I hope to get out of being in the mailroom.
You're hired.
How long have you had this crush on the travel editor?
On Darcy? No way, dude.
How's your day going?
Really good. Just really, really good.
Have a good one.
You too.
Oh, wait. I forgot something.
Yeah, me too.
Gulliver, you're not my boss anymore.
It's impossible. You just got here.
I'm your boss now. It's over for you. Never really gonna get any bigger than this.
You think I don't have plans? I got big plans. I got a writing sample I've been working on. It's dynamite.
I had no idea you wrote. I think I have the perfect fluff piece to start you off with. There's a guy who claims he has the secret to the Bermuda Triangle. So what do you think?
We'll see you in 3 weeks with a story that's gonna blow your mind.
You just follow that dot, and you'll find yourself in a triangle.
Done. Okay. Where's the clutch?
Not a great big hairy beast.
What? Pound it with your fist. Don't shave off my sideburns. I need those mutton chops.
See, when you watch that trailer, you get the brief flashes of promise with this movie. Like that scene at the end with the foosball table was really funny. There's a lot of good moments in here where they actually do have some good elements of comedy. This is co-written by Nicholas Stoller and written by Joe Stillman. Joe Stillman, of course, wrote for King of the Hill. But then again, he also wrote for Planet 51, and we all know how bad that was. But Nicholas Stoller, of course, did Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which coincidentally features Jason Segel in here, and would later feature Emily Blunt, who would star in Stoller's The 5-Year Engagement, which came out a couple years later. This is, of course, based off of the classic story of Gulliver's Travels, where you have... It's a modern-day setting with modern-day pop culture references, because, of course, we gotta have that. And Jack Black plays this New York City mailroom guy who is fired from his job, but he decides to become a writer and basically write a fake article about his travels. And Amanda Peet is this woman he falls in love with, and she decides to send him to the Bermuda Triangle to write an article about the legend of ships disappearing there. He arrives there and finds out that he's actually fallen into this water spout that takes him to the shore of Lilliput, and that's beginning the story of where, you know, Gulliver is the big guy in town, and everybody is small. You got all these characters played by Billy Connolly, Chris O'Dowd, Catherine Tate, Jason Segel, Emily Blunt. This is directed by Rob Letterman. Rob Letterman had done Monsters vs. Aliens the year prior to this. He was mostly known for his animated work, mostly with Shark Tale a couple years prior to this. But, you know, this was his turn to more live-action stuff because he would later go on and do Goosebumps, and then he did Detective Pikachu. But, yeah, this is not a great movie, but to its credit, it's not a bad movie. Again, there are times where it is a film that does feature a lot of intriguing ideas and a lot of intriguing visuals, some funny ideas, and some ideas that sound like they are that part of the typical kid movie storylines here. Like, there's a part in the movie where Jack Black has to set a fire on, and he pees, and you think that, oh, they just added it in there. But no, it turns out that's actually in the books, the original books from the 1700s. And yeah, I was really shocked by that. I couldn't believe that that was actually in there. But yeah, this is a movie where, yeah, it's definitely a film that is not a great movie. It's a film that is very much the typical big-budget, modern kids movie with a lot of, like, gross-out humor jokes. But at the same time, the brief flashes of promise that are in this movie do give it some light. There are a couple of decent, funny moments in here. There are times when the visuals look pretty good. I mean, there definitely is effort being put into this film. Not enough to make me say it's a film you might want to check out, but it's definitely not as bad as it could have been, especially considering what came out this weekend with Little Fockers. I think that one is a much bigger disaster in general. This one was at least trying to do something unique and different with it. Didn't work all the way through, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. And I guess that's probably the best thing you could say about it. It wasn't the worst thing ever. But it is, with all that said, it does give us the greatest thing that this is the greatest thing possible with this movie, and that is to get to hear Jack Black and Jason Segel is redoing a classic Christmas song in the tradition of David Bowie and Bing Crosby. That was, of course, the Little Drummer Boy. They were doing the riff on David Bowie and Bing Crosby singing the song back in the 70s, and that was for College Humor. That's one of my favorite videos that I go back to every holiday season. It's just precursor to what Jack Black does with a lot of these songs in these movies. I mean, they may not be great movies, but every time that Jack Black sings a song in here, for some reason, you cannot look away from it. It's something where it's just like who would have guessed in Kung Fu Panda 4, him doing Hit Me Baby One More Time would be one of the best things about that movie. I mean, look at what Peach is for the Super Mario Brothers movie. I mean, the guy is known for being a pretty fun comedian, but he can also be a really good music guy as well. I mean, he was in Tenacious D, for God's sake, so it makes sense. Jason Segel was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where he had the Muppet vampire thing, the puppet vampire thing. Like, the pieces are definitely there. That's probably the best thing from this movie, but other than that, everything else is not bad, but certainly could have been a whole lot worse. Mostly a mixed opinion, but more leaning towards a slight negative on it. Like I said, it's not a bad movie, but it isn't a great film either, and it certainly could have been a whole lot worse, especially with 20th Century Fox behind it, so I guess we should be grateful for that. So those are the big blockbusters of the holiday season. Now let's get to some of the more independent releases that we're hoping for Oscar contention. Sofia Coppola with her latest film, Somewhere, with Ellie Fanning, and Stephen Dorff in a rare leading role late in his career where it actually plays it off pretty well. Yeah, Stephen Dorff leading a movie in 2010, and it's not some stupid Asylum or Uwe Boll movie like Alone in the Dark. And it actually is really good. But he plays a newly famous actor who, recuperating from a minor injury at the Chateau Marmont, a well-known Hollywood retreat, and despite money, fame, and professional success, Marco is trapped in an existential crisis and has an emotional, empty daily life. When his ex-wife suffers an unexplained breakdown and goes awry, she leaves Cleo, played by Ellie Fanning, an 11-year-old daughter, in his care. They spend time together, and her presence helps Marco mature and accept his own responsibility, and it explores boredom among Hollywood stars, the father-daughter relationships, and offers an oblique comedy of show business, particularly Hollywood filmmaking, and the life of a star. And what's interesting about this movie is that it's not as good as some of Coppola's other works. I mean, I love Lost in Translation. I really like Maria Antoinette. This one is probably the weakest of the films that she has done up to this point, but it still isn't a bad movie at all. It's just a movie where it just works because it's a great slow-burn thriller. It's not even a thriller, a slow-burn drama that kind of just takes you back to the old days, like back in the 50s and 60s. It feels like that type of a movie where the film takes its time. It handles the characters very well. The story becomes the more important aspect of it overall, and it works really well. It's a film that really does show Stephen Dorff does have a lot of potential as an actor. You know, Ellie Fanning, this is one of her earliest film roles. She shows her potential as an actress going forward that we'll see later on down the road. And Sofia Coppola still has what it takes to make a great film. I think there's a lot of good elements in here. It's not one of her better movies, but it's definitely a film that is well worth the watch. I can't recommend it enough. If you love Lost in Translation, The Virgin Suicides, Maria Antoinette, you're going to love Somewhere. I think it is a very good film. One I'd highly recommend checking out. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is Gwyneth Paltrow starring in Country Strong.
Acts of country music come around in a long time.
She's in it for the fame.
Charles, who is your idol?
Kelly Kaner and Jesus Christ.
You and Jesus Christ, who'd have thought?
He's in it for the music.
You gonna let this prom queen get up on stage?
Don't worry. I have no intention of stealing your invisible career.
But there's nothing like the road.
If you want to sing those country pop songs, you go right ahead. But you're better than that.
To bring two people together.
Don't be afraid to fall in love. It's the only thing that matters in life.
Country Strong. Rated PG-13.
Gwyneth Paltrow saw Jeff Bridges get his Oscar last year for Crazy Heart, and she was just like, I need to get my Oscar too, so here's my Crazy Heart right here. And people, I think, were smart enough to kind of stay away from this one. Gwyneth Paltrow plays an emotionally unstable country music star who attempts to revive her faltering career, while you also have this other subplot involving this other rising country music star, played by Leighton Meester from Gossip Girl. It has a good cast overall in here. Gwyneth Paltrow, Tim McGraw, Garrett Hedlund, and Meester. Leighton Meester, somebody I've really loved every time I've seen her. Like, the first time I ever saw her was in Entourage, when she played not Vinny Chase's girlfriend. Who was she on Entourage? Was she Vinny Chase's girlfriend? Now I'm curious. Justine Chapin. Yeah, she was. Like, she, an on and off again girlfriend. Not really officially a girlfriend, but somebody that she hung around with Vincent Chase's character. And ever since then, I was really invested by her. I never watched Gossip Girl, but the girl not only is a good actor, but she can sing her ass off. I mean, if you ever hear the song Good Girls Go Bad, I mean, that's a great song in general. And her songs in here are good. She's the one person I think comes out of this relatively unscathed as the real highlight of the movie, to show that, hey, this isn't just an actress that you see on Gossip Girl. This is somebody who can really be a really good actress all across the board here. But unfortunately, the biggest problem with this movie is that it's another Crazy Heart. It's another Coal Miner's Daughter. It's another Tender Mercies. It's a movie that's begging for an Oscar for its leading star, and it's just not there. People, I think, were not stupid enough to go ahead and buy into this one, despite having the people they have in here. And I think they were smart enough to stay away from this one. And this is directed by somebody who's not a really good director, Shauna Festi, whose next movie she makes is even worse than this, the remake of Endless Love, which somehow makes the terrible 1980s Endless Love look like a masterpiece by comparison. That's how bad this director is. So yeah, this is a film that has good intentions, but just a terrible script, a generic script overall. The actors are trying their best to save it, and it's just not there. The only person, like I said, who comes out relatively unscathed is Leighton Meester. I think she's actually really good at the movie. She's the real heart of the film. She's the one person who carries this film all the way through, but unfortunately, the rest of the film is just kind of complete garbage, so yeah. Yeah, I don't think I need to tell you, you can avoid Country Strong like the plague, and yeah, pay no attention to the fact that it was nominated for Best Original Song. You're not winning an Oscar in that year when you're up against a song from Toy Story 3. Get the hell out of here with that.
How did you ladies end up out here anyway?
Well, officer, it's quite a story.
It really isn't a complicated story, really. I mean, you can see the opening of the trailer there. I think you get kind of an idea of the movie that we're going to talk about here. Welcome to Time About the Movies. It is the weekend of New Year's Eve 2010. And essentially, this is our leftover show. If you're new to this is the show where I take a look at some notable movies from the past year that I did not get to cover in the regular weeks of the show. And essentially, I talk about those films in particular, and we don't have a whole lot of movies here, but some notable films regardless. And that's our first movie right here, Bitch Slap, which pretty much you can look at it and think to yourself, oh, this is clearly a Grindhouse spin-off movie. And no, it really isn't, even though it is trying to make you think that, but it really isn't. So in it, when you have three curvaceous babes, stripper Trixie, business executive Hell, and the feisty ex-con Camaro, arriving at a desert highway to steal a stash of diamonds from an underworld kingpin, things quickly spiral out of control, allegiances are switched, truths are revealed, and criminals are unmasked, and nothing is quite what it seems as the fate of the world is precariously balanced among this trio of sexy femme fatales. This is pretty much what you think it is. It's a straight-up B-movie exploitation movie that takes you back to the days of stuff like, you know, classic movies like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, Faster Pussycat, Kill Kill. And it is pretty much a film that exists solely because of what Grindhouse did a couple years ago. And you have some people here, notable names in here, Aaron Cummings from Spartacus, America Olivio, you have Kevin Sorbo, Renee O'Connor, they got people... Lucy Walls is in here too, so they pretty much grabbed everybody from Hercules and Xena. Zoe Bell, who was in Grindhouse, is in this movie as well. So, I mean, it's one of those movies where you really got to go into it knowing what you're going into. If you've seen the movie Grindhouse and you got some enjoyment out of it, you'll probably get some enjoyment out of this too. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as those movies were, but it's not a terrible movie by any means necessary. It's a film specifically tailored for that exploitation audience that loves the old 60s, 70s Grindhouse style films. This film's definitely right up that alley, and I think if you go into it with that mindset, you can go into it having a good time with it per se. And like I said, nothing spectacular, nothing amazing, but a fun little guilty pleasure film. It is what it is. You gotta know going into it what it is. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie I have on this list here, and that is Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, and the only new release that actually came out this weekend. That is Blue Valentine.
You got any, like, talents?
Like your new talents?
Can you dance? You can tap dance?
Can you?
No. Here, I'll play a song and you dance. Okay. I can't really sing. I have to sing goofy in order to sing. Like, I have to sing stupid. Okay?
Okay.
I'm sure nothing will go wrong whatsoever, and yeah, that trailer doesn't give you a clear indication, at least early on, of what this movie really is about, and it gets pretty harsh when it needs to, but Blue Valentine depicts a married couple played by Michelle Williams and Ryan Gosling that shifts back and forth in time between their courtship and the dissolution of their marriage several years later. So it's a film that is presented in two essential linear narratives. You got a story. Like one point, you'll be looking at the relationship early on, and you'll see them in the twilight of their end of their marriage overall. And it does lead to a lot of awkward and very, very precociously, certainly some very interesting, odd things about this movie. About really in terms of the whole idea of a marriage falling on the rocks. I mean, we've seen type movies like this before, you know. One of the great examples, one of the great dark comedies, The War of the Roses, is a good example of this. We had a Reservation Road with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. We've had Marriage Story in the years since this. I mean, this is not a new thing. It hasn't been a new thing, and it still works if you get the right people to work with. You do buy into Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, and you do buy that they were once really in love with each other at some point, and then just they seem a lot of lost and everything. And there's definitely a lot of risque stuff in here. In fact, this thing was actually given an NC-17 rating at the beginning because of a scene depicting cunnilingus, where, you know, Gosling basically accused the MPAA of sexism and misogyny, saying there's plenty of oral scenes, sex scenes in a lot of movies when it's a man receiving it from a woman, and they're R-rated. Ours is reversed, and somehow it's perceived as pornographic. But they basically appealed the decision the studio basically appealed the decision to get it in R rating, and it did work eventually, about 2 months after they got the original NC-17 rating, and it was essentially re-rated to a rated R movie. I think they basically did that because NC-17 is kind of like the G rating at this point in time. Nobody wants to use that rating for anything whatsoever. I mean, the G rating is pretty much dead at this point, but the NC-17 rating had been dead for several years, and the movies that tried to bring it back, like The Dreamers, didn't really do that well in general. So I guess that was their attempt to work with it, and it does work overall. And I mean, the film, it did eventually pay off for the film in the end. The movie overall regardless of the rating, it's still a really good movie with 2 solid performances really leading the charge. I mean, Ryan Gosling, he had this, he had All Good Things. He was having a really good, he had a really good decade starting with these 2 movies. And then, of course, the year after this, he would follow it up with some really big films in Drive and The Ides of March, and he would now become known as the Ryan Gosling that we know of today. It was also a big year for Michelle Williams, too. This was a big thing for Michelle Williams as well because, most people knew her from Dawson's Creek, and this was slowly but surely her transitioning into that great Academy Award-nominated actress she would eventually become, following this up a year later with My Week of Maryland. But, yeah, it's a really good movie. It's a very tough film, but then again, from this director, Derek Cianfrance, who, of course, has done stuff like The Place Beyond the Pines, The Light Between the Oceans, and he's got the new film Wolfman coming up. It's not really much of a surprise you could expect a film like this from him, so yeah, it's a really good movie. Definitely check it out. So now let's get to some DC titles here. We have 3 new DC Universe animated films to take a look at, starting with our first film, Justice League Crisis on 2 Earths.
Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and the rest of the Justice League.
It's okay. We'll take it from here.
In a battle against their criminal counterparts.
I'm the baddest of the bad. Anybody who ever stood in my way is dead.
2 Earths, 2 leagues, 1 epic battle. Justice League, Crisis on 2 Earths. Nice place. This is the president. I think I'm gonna like it here.
I'm sure he'll be just fine on this Earth. This is Justice League Crisis on 2 Earths, based off of the abandoned direct-to-video feature that was supposed to be like the bridge between the original Justice League series and the upcoming Justice League Unlimited series, but never came to be, so they basically reworked it as a script here without the Justice League TV show references and made it its own film, essentially. So the premise is you have a heroic Lex Luthor from an alternate universe coming to the Justice League's universe for help against the crime syndicate, with a stacked cast in this movie, and that's going to be something we'll talk about in just a second here, but looking at the good stuff overall, the animation is once again really incredible to look at, and once again, more proof that these movies are not just typical straight-to-video movies, but can work easily, potentially as theatrical releases, because they are really putting a lot of money and effort into the animation in here, and everything else in here is great. The script is top-notch from the late Dwayne McDuffie, his first script from this universe at his finest, and he would also write the scripts later on for stuff like All-Star Superman and Justice League Doom as well, before his untimely death a year after this movie came out. I mean, we've seen this type of story done before, but honestly, a guy like Dwayne McDuffie can make it work enough to not be too noticeable, unlike the voice cast in here, which, not to say the voice cast is terrible in here, but if there's a big flaw with this movie, it's just that these new voices really don't seem to fit whatsoever. I mean, William Baldwin as Batman just seems a little too off for that character. I mean, this is coming from somebody who has personifies the animated Batmans with Kevin Conroy and Tim Daly as Superman, which we'll get to them in a little bit because they have another movie this year. But Mark Harmon's Superman is just okay, but you can easily tell it's the guy from NCIS as the Man of Steel. Chris Noth as Lex Luthor just doesn't work. I mean, he thought Powers Booth's Lex Luthor was odd. This is just weird and out of place. The voice of Wonder Woman, Vanessa Marshall, it's kind of off too. I mean, you have Gina Torres already in the cast playing somebody else, and she's one of the stronger Wonder Woman performers. You could have had her play this easily, but it really does seem weird having Irwin from The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy as the voice of Wonder Woman. Now, to its credit, there are some good voice acting in here. There is some good voice acting in here. James Woods, instantly watchable, and he's really good as Owlman, and you can never go wrong with Nolan North regardless of who he plays. It's not quite as good as The New Frontier, but a decent outing overall, a lot of good action, great animation, a good script by Dwayne McDuffie. If the voice cast had been better, this probably would have been one of their greatest films, but as it stands, a decent film, but one that should indeed be at least watched once. So that's one of the 3 movies we have from them this year. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next one, Batman Under the Red Hood. So in this one, Batman faces his ultimate challenge as the mysterious Red Hood takes Gotham City by firestorm, one part vigilante, one part criminal kingpin. Red Hood begins cleaning up Gotham with the efficiency of Batman, but without the same ethical code. Killing is an option, and when the Joker falls in the balance between the two, because of course the Joker's got to be in this, hard truths are realized and old wounds are reopened. With this one in particular, the last couple of DC animated movies weren't great, but they were definitely not as strong as some of the earliest works out there. But Under the Red Hood really was the one that catapulted it back up to where they were back with New Frontier and Gotham Knight. I mean, this is a spectacle of a film. Everything about it just works very well. It's one of DC's more perfect films they've made with this whole thing in general. And this is written by Judd Winnick, who also did The Life and Times of Juniper Lee, and it follows very true to his story. He wrote in the Batman comics, keeping the strange, dramatic, and action-packed elements from the story. Unlike the last one, Crisis on Two Earths, this voice cast is great. Bruce Greenwood steals the show as Batman. Just when you think nobody could top Kevin Conroy, he comes pretty damn close to doing it, and it's no wonder why he actually reprised that role later on in Young Justice. Jensen Ackles from Supernatural is really good as Red Hood. John DiMaggio was really good as the Joker. Neil Patrick Harris is always going to be good, whatever you put him in. Nightwing, he's really good. The score overall is great. This is composer Christopher Drake, who actually used the inspiration for one of my favorite, not only one of my favorite Batman movies, but one of my favorite movies of all time, Mask of the Phantasm. He used that for this, and it definitely shows. He chooses not to make the music as epic and melodramatic, but instead more intimate, minimal, and restrained. And he added that this was the first DC film that he had scored that didn't rely on using a large choir to make the fight scene sound bigger. It works very well, and it plays very well to the overall elements of it. This makes this such a masterpiece in the fact that the action sequences are really good. It's beautifully animated, timed very well, not overdone by typical cliches. It's genuine, fresh, very rewarding all the time. It does great dramatic sequences here very well. This is a heavy story to tackle, and to bring it to life this way, they brought it up to the next level for them. We get a nice glimpse into the psyche of Batman that we haven't really seen done before in other adaptations of the story. And of course, we got to bring up the death scene of Jason Todd, and it's one of the best death scenes ever. The atmosphere, the acting, the pacing, the emotions, all handled perfectly well. None of it feels fake. None of it feels out of place. It's genuine, and it just works on so many levels. This is one of their best movies ever. This is one of their triumphs that they have done. Batman Under the Red Hood, everything about it just works. It's hard not to love this movie. It's definitely one of the ones that I highly recommend checking out. So let's take a look at their last film they have here, which does feature the return of Kevin Conroy and Tim Daly as Batman and Superman in Superman Batman Apocalypse.
We're all here because each of us, in our own way, fights with the hope of a better tomorrow.
You didn't think you could just walk away, did you? This ends now.
Now, you would think after Superman Batman Public Enemies, you would think that this movie would probably be one of the better movies to come out in 2010 from DC. I mean, you got Kevin Conroy and Tim Daly back as Batman and Superman. You have Summer Glau in here playing Supergirl. You have Andre Braugher in here playing Darkseid. I mean, you think you would have something really good here, but it focuses primarily on the introduction of Supergirl and her relationship with Superman, and Batman plays a supporting role. The fact that Batman is playing a supporting role in the movie where he's literally in the fucking title, that's one of the many reasons wrong with this film, but let's run down the plot. Batman discovers a mysterious teenage girl with superhuman powers and a connection to Superman, that is Supergirl. When the girl comes to the attention of Darkseid, the evil overlord of Apocalypse, events take a decidedly dangerous turn. And you would think, like I said, after Public Enemies, they would put together a movie that's just as good in the sequel, and sadly, you'd be wrong. This is the first DC Universe animated movie that I saw that I really hated. I mean, it was a massive disappointment. I mean, good lord. Again, Superman Batman is in the title. Batman is barely in the movie. It makes no sense to have his name in the title, and he's hardly in the film. That's the equivalent of what happened with Tom and Jerry with their movie, and the Lorax, what happened with his movie. I mean, it's just a lot when you see more of Supergirl in this movie than you see Batman. You should just call the movie Superman Supergirl Apocalypse. Not that hard. Secondly, the designs in here are so terrible. Supergirl looks like an emo goth chick. I mean, we just had Superman, the James Gunn Superman, come out, and the fact that they made her a party girl and it made sense for her to have a crazy dog like Crypto, that made that part in that movie very funny at the end of the film. Superman basically looks like what Robert Pattinson would have been like if he had been cast as Superman, and Batman literally looks constipated in many of the scenes that he's in. He does not feel like he wants to be there. The voice casting overall is wasted. Tim Daly and Kevin Conroy are back, but they really don't feel like they want to be there. The last movie, Public Enemies, you got a sense that they wanted to be there for this. But this, it literally felt like they were getting a paycheck for this. I mean, the late Andre Braugher is such a good actor. He should be excellent as Darkseid. Even he doesn't feel like he wants to be there. Storm McLeod doesn't feel like she wants to be there as Supergirl. They brought back in Ed Asner as Granny Goodness from Superman the Animated Series. And again, it feels like he's only doing this for the paycheck. The story is weak, and really, you'd think DC would be better at adapting these stories after what they did with Under the Red Hood and Crisis on Two Earths, but no, this is a film that is just... I was flabbergasted how much I hated this movie. I was really disappointed by this. I thought DC would have had a better handling of how to adapt this, but they can't all be perfect, apparently, and Superman Batman Apocalypse, sadly, is one you can definitely skip out on big time. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at what Universal has in store in the direct-to-video market this year with Smoking Aces 2, Assassin's Ball.
You with me, babe? I'm listening.
The payout is $3 million.
Am I in some sort of trouble?
I'll go to hell. Writing this letter.
I think tonight's going to end very badly.
Cheer up. You're about to live through this.
First of all, it's not a sequel. It's a prequel to the original Smoking Aces. So that's your first mistake. Number two, it literally looks like the same goddamn movie that Smoking Aces was, except instead of it being Buddy Aces from the last movie, it's an entirely different character altogether. As you have an FBI desk jockey who was targeted for murder by various hired assassins, variously played by you have characters played by Tom Berenger, Vinnie Jones, Tommy Flanagan, Autumn Reisner, Keegan Connor Tracy, and Ernie Hudson. This is quite literally the definition of a let's make a movie because Smoking Aces was a success, and we'll pretend the audience is really stupid and sell this as a sequel. I guarantee you that this movie was originally a straightforward movie called Assassin's Ball, but then it was picked up by Universal, and they said, well, I don't think people are going to sell this movie. But you know what was one of our big hits from earlier in the decade? Smoking Aces. Let's go ahead and just put Smoking Aces 2. Sir, that's a prequel. Who cares? People are stupid enough to buy into it. And, this person right here in particular. But then again, it should have been a sign that this was not going to be good, considering that this is written by the same people who made The Fourth Kind. That's right. Olatunde Usanami wrote the script for this movie. And that should have been the red flag right there to stay the hell away from this. And it's not that great. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it's definitely one of those films that was clearly another movie that was slapped on with the Smoking Aces title because they thought that was going to sell. The coolest death in the movie is when a guy is having sex with this woman who turns out to be an assassin, and he kills her, and she kills her right there. And it's just like, that's cool and all, and it's just like, that was one of the scenes they sold in the trailer for this, and if you gotta do that, then you know your movie isn't that great. But then again, I wouldn't expect less from the same director who gave us From Dusk Till Dawn. Not the original From Dusk Till Dawn, From Dusk Till Dawn 3. And also Sniper 3. And Lost Boys, The Tribe. Second one, I think. Right? Yeah, it's the second one in that series. So, yeah, not much of a shocker that this was not going to be great. So, let's see if the next Universal direct-to-video movie, Death Race 2, can change things around. I mean, there's no way that this could be the same movie as the first movie all over again, right?
In the world's most dangerous prison, those animals kill each other with regularity. A new game is born. What if we could harness their hatred in a death race?
Every car will hold as many guns and as much ammunition as it can.
They're making money off our blood. The prisoner wins 5 races, he wins his freedom. 10 of those.
Of course it is. Yeah, this is pretty much another movie like Smoking Aces 2, where it's sold as a sequel. It literally has Death Race 2, but it's a prequel to Death Race. It's the prequel to the 2008 it's a prequel to Death Race, but then again, the original the Jason Statham Death Race movie that came out a few years prior to this was actually a prequel to the events of Death Race 2000. So we have a prequel to a prequel to a prequel, apparently. But Luke Goss stars as Carl Luke Lucas, a convicted cop killer who is sentenced to life for sentenced to life in a for-profit maximum security prison where he's forced to compete in the titular reality show to earn his freedom. Characters played by Fred Collier, Tenet Phoenix, Robin Chow, Lauren Cohen, Danny Trejo, Ving Rhames, and Sean Bean appear in supporting roles. Cohen and Chow reprised their roles from the Paul W.S. Anderson Death Race movie. Now, unlike Smoking Aces 2, which was literally a film that just slapped on the Smoking Aces title on it and it turned out a bad film, as much as I criticized this in the beginning, I gotta admit, this is actually one of the better direct-to-video sequels you could do out there. They actually do a pretty good job of elevating it over the previous movie. The first Death Race movie was a silly, fun, over-the-top movie, but this, they actually did a good job of elevating it to another level in terms of upping the ante with the action sequences. The cast overall is surprisingly very enjoyable. Luke Goss shows a lot of potential as a leading actor in this, and I think he's done a pretty good job in this. I mean, the film overall does a good job of sticking to what makes Death Race work, while also elevating it to a whole nother level in general in terms of what they could do with this idea. And it plays very well. There's a lot of really cool action in this movie. It's granted, it's pretty much the same movie as the first film in terms of its story, but for a direct-to-video movie, considering that this could have had easily with a much lower budget, and that means it probably could be lesser than what you would expect, this thing could easily have failed miserably, but they found a way to make it work, and it really was one of those big surprises that you really do not see coming. It's a film that surprisingly worked as well as it could have, and I gotta give them credit for that, because actually, this movie was a whole lot more fun than I could have possibly imagined, honestly. So if you like the original Death Race movie, the 2008 one, definitely give Death Race 2 a shot. It's not a sequel as it claims it is, but it's still a hell of a good movie overall, and I really do recommend it, honestly. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to what is our last movie here, an HBO original movie with Al Pacino as Dr. Death in You Don't Know Jack.
You do it quickly and painlessly. You don't let him wither away.
You can't kill someone on national television.
If they want to silence me, let them prosecute me. Send me to jail.
Tell me when to flip the switch. Oh my God, you're Dr. Death.
This is not a trial, Your Honor. Wait, what law have I broken?
You understand what prison is? Did you see the Shawshank Redemption, sir?
This is, of course, the true story of the life of Jack Kevorkian, who was the man who, he was often referred to as Dr. Death in the press. He assisted people's suicides, and it follows him as this former pathologist to help the terminally ill and the profoundly disabled end their lives. And he's an outspoken, polarizing figure, and he's assisted by his sister, played by Brenda Vaccaro, as well as his longtime friend and medical technician, played by John Goodman, and Janet Good, played by Susan Sarandon, who founded the Middle Eastern Michigan chapter of the Hemlock Society. By accepted accounts, he aided 130 people to die, and he was unsuccessfully tried 4 times, but after taking an unprecedented direct role in the August 1998 death of his final patient, he is convicted of second-degree murder and is sentenced to 10 to 25 years in prison, where he served about 8 years before being released in June 2007. And I brought this up because this is one of those movies that Barry Levinson did with HBO and Al Pacino, because he did a couple of more movies for HBO. He did one with Robert De Niro in it called The Wizard of Lies, and then he would reteam with Pacino again later in the decade for the Paterno movie, which is another really good movie in general. And Barry Levinson and Al Pacino just worked together so well. And for a director like Barry Levinson, who had been really struggling with his theatrical releases, the stuff he did before this, Man of the Year, What Just Happened, Envy, Bandits, weren't very successful movies in general. And yeah, he hasn't had the same kind of success in film, but when it comes to television, he had a role going on in the 2010s, because he made 3 damn good movies for HBO. This was back when HBO made original movies, which I can't believe I even have to say this out there, because some of you may not even remember HBO did original movies back then. Because now they don't do it at all nowadays. Now it's mostly just films that go straight to HBO Max or get shipped out to theaters. But yeah, this is a movie that just works really well. It's a very well done film. A lot of really good talent involved in this. You got James Urbaniak from the Venture Brothers in here, Adam Driver in one of his early film roles, and it's just a really slick, very impressive put together film where you really buy into Al Pacino as Kevorkian. He plays that role so well. It's no wonder he won Emmys, Golden Globes, Screen Actors Guild Awards for this performance, because he really does knock it out of the park. He makes it work so well. It's a really good movie. It's a really good film. I highly recommend checking it out. It's definitely one of the more underrated movies Barry Levinson has ever directed. You don't know Jack. It's definitely one that you should know about.